Welcome to Sumbits, where we decode the PowerSchool development experience. Sumbits is brought to you by MBA. Let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of Sumbits. I am very, very excited about today's episode. I am joined by, as always, Ryan Cockrum and Eric Scheidel. And as you see on the screen, if you're watching the video, we are joined by our lovely superior, Alicia Ohnstad. She is our big boss, and we are super excited to have her here today. And for today's topic, we are talking about the history of MBA. And I am super excited about this episode because I've been with MBA for about a year, a little over a year now. And I keep hearing like little inklings of the history of MBA and kind of where MBA started. But I'm definitely interested and excited to hear about the long history. As always, we are joining in some cocktails today. Today, I am enjoying some 1792 bottled in bond.
Move it
Another bourbon.
I think you got to head right more in middle of your camera there. I could only see the half on my screen.
That's
good.
There we go.
Is that like James Bond?
Bottled in bond. I could talk a long time about bottled in bond, but maybe we'll save that for another episode.
Well,
or maybe just an off topic, huh?
Sean's been encouraging me, so I've been heading down the bourbon train, and today I'm going with some Bullet.
Good choice.
All I can say is I enjoy it.
So I'm proud to say that I'm double fisting today, ladies and gentlemen. So what I got here is my brand new MBA can koozie with my bottle of Spotted Cow. I know that's not really a departure from the norm for me. However, in the right hand today, I'm kind of excited. I have cranberry moonshine.
Oh,
so
that sounds like it'll like melt your lining, but taste good too.
Yeah. So if Eric,
a lovely woman and friend of mine by the name of Julie Kind gave this to me. So she brewed it up herself, and I'm kind of excited. It's delicious. I got a little bit left, but a little goes a long way.
Is it the kind of moonshine that's flammable, or?
Well, I mean, it's not like she has a distillery in her living room. At least she didn't last time I visited. She might now, but no. Apparently, it's a Everclear base.
Right.
Oh, so it's flammable.
So I'm probably. Maybe we'll find out toward the end of the episode.
Is that a cinnamon stick in there?
Yeah, and I got a cinnamon stick floating around in there. I already polished off the apple pie moonshine that she made for me, so I've moved on to cranberry.
My uncle used to give me shots of Everclear when I was like 16 or 17 years old. And unbeknownst to me what I was dealing with, and all I just remember was taking it and then my breath going away and just be like, that's something.
That's allowed in Canada, right?
Yeah. Well, he's just a fun uncle.
Everybody's got one of those. What are you having today, Alicia?
I have in my MBA koozie a hard seltzer from a local brewery here called Carbon 4 in Madison, Wisconsin. They make beer too, but I don't really drink beer, so I'm having a seltzer. And this is huckleberry flavored. It's really good.
It's nice to see the small time guys are getting into the seltzer game.
Yeah.
Never tried seltzers, really.
No? It's the cool new thing.
Okay.
It is the cool, like, have you heard of Truly's or White Claw?
The White Claw is a big one.
Okay, it's like White Claw, but better in my opinion. No offense to anyone, but
and everybody's making seltzer now. Budweiser's got a Bud Light seltzer or something.
Yeah.
So what am I expecting if I have a drink of a seltzer? What is it expecting to hit my palate?
It depends, like, on the flavor of it, but I mean, it almost just tastes like carbonated water with flavor.
Okay.
And some of them are beer based, some of them are vodka based, so it just depends on where that flavor comes from then too.
They're great for the summer.
Cool.
They are.
For sure.
I feel like it's a little early for a glass of wine, so I'm gonna have a seltzer.
So the topic of today is we're just going to talk about alcohol.
Great.
Well, that's always the underlying topic. But then,
That's
what is the
right.
real topic there, Sean?
Hey, actually, before I forget, speaking of topics of the podcast, we do have a way for you guys to contact us now. We do have an email address set up. So if you guys have any episode ideas or just feedback on any of these episodes, go ahead and reach out to us at sumbits@mba-link.com. It will be in the description below. But yeah, it's sumbits@mba-link.com.
Or hey, if you just want to provoke an argument between the three guys here, and I mean Alicia could jump in too, but if you just really want to see how far you can draw something, we'll all get in on it.
Absolutely. But at the topic at hand, we are wanting to talk about the history of MBA, Marcia Brenner Associates. So obviously that's why we're bringing Alicia in, so you can kind of answer some questions for us and tell everybody where MBA kind of started, where it came from, and how it became to what it is today. Because I do know Marcia Brenner Associates has been around for quite a while. So what year did it actually start?
1984.
84. So
Yep.
that was obviously predated to PowerSchool. So how did it all begin?
Well, Marcia Brenner, for people that out there that don't know, is my mother. And she started the business, I think I was in 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. She went to college at RPI in New York, in Troy, New York, as an economics major. And upon graduation, went to work for IBM in
Can I ask
Albany.
I think you've told me this before, Alicia. RPI, though, for those of us that don't know what RPI means, is that
Rensselaer Polytech Institute.
So
Okay.
so funny little note about that is my hometown, the town that I live in, Little Northwest Indiana, is actually called Rensselaer. And the only people that I meet, through PSUGs, or that can actually pronounce my town name correctly are people from New York. And it's because of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. So Jason Treadwell, when I first met him, and that's somewhere he had seen that I was from Rensselaer, and he mentioned something about me being from Rensselaer, and he pronounced it right. And I'm like, so you're from New York? He's like, yeah, definitely.
So she was working at IBM, and when she went to college, they really didn't have like computer programming degrees. So they were just programming at IBM, teaching people, their customers, how to use the computers and the programs that they were writing. And it was mainly accounting type software, general ledger type stuff that they were doing in the beginning. And she met my dad at IBM. He was a branch manager there, and they got married, ended up moving to Illinois. Myself and all my siblings were born in Illinois, and then we moved up to Madison when I was about 3, and my mom worked for a company in Madison, PDP, what does that stand for again? I'm trying to remember. Professional Data Processing. And again, she was like an account manager, programmer working with customers. It was largely like writing the programs and then teaching the people how to use computers and the programs, because it was all just so new then. Right. And through my dad at IBM, they started working with like government agencies and things like that. And so it just kind of got bigger and bigger, and they kind of asked my mom to, help them keep that going. And so she decided to start her own business, and was working largely with IBM and their J&K software. Again, it was more like accounting software, and getting that going. And that's kind of the trajectory that brought her into school districts, because then IBM hardware got into school districts, and then the software that ran on it, school districts were using both on the financial side and on the student side, doing attendance and things like that.
Interesting.
Like I remember being in high school, and all the attendance secretaries in the office knew who my mom was, because she had been there training them on like the little punch cards,
right?
that they would use. So so that's how MBA got into schools, and the J&K software. I don't remember the whole story, but somehow it got sold because when I first started working for my mom, we were using a product called Sims 3. It was black and green screens, ran on the AS400, the System 36 before that. Yeah. So, and so that got her into really heavily into schools. And then NCS bought that. And so then she had a partnership with NCS, and then it went from Sims 3, we got involved into SASE XP, and then PowerSchool. Well, we actually had Centerpoint in there for a little bit, and then PowerSchool. And so, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's been a great trajectory for us because school districts are just awesome customers. They're, you know, they're great people, and they're just, it gives you a feeling of kind of helping out, you know, and
yeah.
You're making somewhat of a little bit of difference in the schools.
For sure.
I've always said about people working in districts, the reason I went to go work for a district at one point is like, generally speaking, you're working with people who want to be there. It's not like people who just fell into a job. You don't go work for a school district unless you want to be there. That makes a big difference in the work environment compared to other places where, you know, you're just, here's a job out of college or something like that.
Yeah, and one of the big reasons I went back and worked for the district it was my hometown district. I mean, again, that concept of giving back, you know, I wanted to help out. Right. And I think, so, I mean, obviously MBA from the very beginning has had a stance that we're here to help. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even though it may have originally been in business, but, you know, moving into the schools, and, you know, obviously you've really focused down the school pathway of the people that really do appreciate the help and need the help, right? So districts, you know, tend to not be able to, you know, especially with funding and whatnot, not be able to necessarily hire in the people, every single person that they need to help, you know, run the school as a business. So it's nice to see companies out there that are willing to help.
Yeah, and when my mom started, she started it. It was her and one other. She had one employee, basically. He was an employee of hers at PDP at her old company, and he came with her when she started her new business. And then, still like we're at 25 employees, I think, total. And I mean, I don't know that we've ever had that many employees. So. It's
not in my history with the company. I've been here 10 years now. I think there were 10 when I started, Alicia.
Wow.
Yeah. If even, Eric, like, yeah.
and I mean, that's all for PowerSchool too, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We, up until, has it been 3 years since she retired? I think it's been about 3 years since she retired. And when we were still working with a product called Alio, which some of you out there may know, on the
just used it. I researched it, and
business side of school districts. And so up until then, you know, so yeah, about 3 years ago, that was when we really kind of transitioned and said, we are wholeheartedly PowerSchool. And like Kelly, one of our employees, was big on the Alio side from a state reporting standpoint and a programmer over there. So it was great that we were able to move her into PowerSchool with her background and get her going on programming in PowerSchool and working on our state development for PowerSchool.
So when you stopped supporting Alio, was that the first time that it was really just a single product that MBA was focused on?
Yeah, pretty much, because when we started, back when it was Sims 3, like when I started, that had a business operations piece of it, you know, HR, employee management, all of that. And it had the student application side of it. Gotcha. And so we had that for a while. And then I remember before we even got into SASE XP, there was a new grade book. I think it was Integrate Pro at the time, which you guys are probably before your time. but
So
Not
Sassy's before my
something
time.
I'm familiar with.
so like we had this grade book and going in, and that integrated with Sims. I think this was kind of around the same time as we got involved in Sassy XP because it worked with both platforms. And that was like my first foray, at least, into like teaching teachers how to use software, which was fun. And but it was also at a time when computers were moving, these programs were moving from those black and green screens where everything was just your keyboard and tab and control and enter and all of that to using a mouse and right clicking with the mouse to get a menu drop down. And so, teaching some people how to use a mouse was part of what we were having to teach them when we're really trying to teach them how to use their grade book, so so it was interesting, like that it's hard for me to like think that I'm that old that I remember when people were like starting to use mice with computers, Like,
Is it just me, or is there anybody else? As soon as you hear that the phrase "we had the black and green screen," what's the first thing your head goes to?
Well, DOS.
Oregon Trails.
Yep.
Oh,
No?
For sure.
I don't know what
remember
that
playing
like in
Second
school,
Yes.
the thing we did in school. Yeah.
You're like a pioneer had to go west.
Yep, and you always died of dysentery.
It's probably an American thing. Never mind.
It's literally the only reason like the most people in our generation even know what dysentery actually is.
Like, so it was a game?
Yeah.
It's a game.
Okay. So you know what? I think there was a equivalent in Canada called Cross Country Canada.
It was probably the exact same game, just a different
let's see.
box. Like
what it was you would figure out how to get commodities from one city to another by driving a semi-trailer. And it would be various commodities, but you'd have to like fuel up and sleep at the right spots and then throw on your, chains when you're getting on ice roads. And it actually wasn't a green screen, but I mean, it sounds like a very classic vintage educational based game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I digress. I couldn't help throwing that out there.
Yeah, that's funny. No,
so it sounds like PowerSchool really came about because of the transition from Sassy to PowerSchool.
Yeah,
well, what happened was NCS owned Sims, and then I think Pearson bought it. And then Pearson had this other product. It's like there was this product, Sassy, and that Pearson had. And I don't know if I'm remembering this totally correctly, but that again was more, I think, like a DOS-based like program. And they had this new Sassy XP, which was more just like a PC like program and not DOS-based and things like that. And I think at the same time, Pearson bought or had, it was a product called, I think it was called Columbia or something like that. I don't know. My memory isn't the greatest here. But anyway, so Pearson then was launching Sassy XP and trying to get that out there. And so we would start moving our Sims customers into Sassy XP. And my mom and I went and spent, I think we did 2 weeks and then a week home and then 2 more weeks to do certification training in Sassy XP. They used to do it the same way for PowerSchool back in the day too. So anyway, Pearson owned Sassy XP. And then I think, so then everything was getting to where they had to, everyone wanted internet-based or web-based, I should say, programming. Yeah. And so Pearson bought a product called Centerpoint, which was a really slick web-based program. But shortly after they bought Centerpoint, they bought PowerSchool. Like at the time that they bought Centerpoint, my brother was working for MBA as well, and he was our main salesperson, and he had I think one of his biggest sales in Wisconsin on Centerpoint, and they were like about to implement and Pearson bought PowerSchool and was going to not move forward with Centerpoint because PowerSchool
Oh man.
program. So it was just, I mean, it's just.
So does your brother like still hate PowerSchool because of that?
No.
Have you ever had kid new bikes and everything like that, or?
So anyway, so they bought PowerSchool, and then shortly thereafter, and has to be close to around when you started, Eric, because they bought PowerSchool, and then shortly thereafter, probably the next year, they wanted to end of life SASE XP, so they did this whole SASE First program where I forget, they had some great pricing deal, and then you implemented in like 90 days. Like they had this whole package put together, and the whole goal was to get as many of their customers from SIMS to SIMS or SASE XP to PowerSchool. And so, yeah, then we've been with PowerSchool ever since. That had to have been around 2007 because I did my Power Scheduler stuff in 2009, I think. So, yeah.
That sounds about right because I started in 2009. I think that's when I started. And Alicia, you and I have gone back and forth about this before because I know you said you swore I worked with SASE XP, but I never remember working with SASE. It was all PowerSchool. But I don't know. Remember.
I think when you did either the immunizations or you did something because when we converted our SASE people to PowerSchool, maybe you didn't. Maybe you wrote it for PowerSchool off of what someone else did for SASE XP. Yeah, I don't totally remember.
Maybe it was just that bad of an experience that you've just blocked it out.
No, this was classic. I remember this. My first project with MBA when I started in 2009 was this immunization application. At the time, we were, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alicia, we were Wisconsin. We did not have a footprint outside of the state of Wisconsin.
Correct. And you did it for PowerSchool because we had built one for SASE XP. And in order to get everyone to transition, we wanted to have that available. So yes, you're right. It was probably PowerSchool was probably your first foray. Yes.
Oh, and this would have been like in the PowerSchool 5 days.
Oh,
I remember I built that as an entirely separate application that just hooked into the PowerSchool database because it was
4D, so you could do it.
What's that?
It was 4D still, right? So you could do it.
Well, it
was before they went to Oracle, I think.
Might have been, but I mean, at the time, I think they had virtual tables and things like that, but it was just before they had documentation and developer forums and stuff like that. And I realized that I built a entirely separate application when it could have been part of the PowerSchool application. But hey, it was a good learning experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
So obviously,
that's the neat thing to me when I think back. And I know that my history of MBA, it goes back about 10 years, and yours obviously goes way further. That's the thing that just amazes me about the 10 years that I've spent here is again, that one fact that when I started with MBA, we did not have one client outside the state of Wisconsin. And now, Alicia?
Well, we did, just not probably in SASE XP, not in your world, because on the SIM side, we did have some customers in Iowa and Nebraska, but because with SIMS, the SIMS software was still out there. That was probably a little bit before they were moving to Alio, and we serviced Iowa and Nebraska as well for that. So, but you weren't really involved in that at all ever. So on that side of it.
So it sounds like from the very beginning, very focused on like the training and consulting side of helping schools, which MBA very much still is. Mm-hmm. The other side of MBA now is the customization piece. Obviously, our plugins and our customizations in general. So when did the customizations piece of MBA really start taking hold?
Well, even back when we were working with SIMS. Before SASE XP, we were customizing it, and due to our relationship with whether it was NCS at the time or Pearson, we would always have access to the source code. So we could go in, and again, we did state development for Wisconsin, and I think we did it for Iowa and Nebraska for a while. I can't remember exactly all those details. So we've been doing like state reporting development for ages, you know, in all kind of instances of the software that we've been working with. So we've really always been doing customizations in some way, shape, or form. And even back to SIMS beyond state reporting, we would have, you know, customers that needed a certain menu customized and programs within their SIM software that they were doing that they needed customized. SASE wasn't as easy to customize. And I don't remember doing a lot of custom. SASE was easy to get data out, and we would build a lot in Access to help people with what they needed from SASE XP. But then, you know, PowerSchool with, you know, its ability to customize and, you know, without too many hurdles was, you know, just so great. And and especially once they added the plugin capability. But we were customizing PowerSchool, I think, from the beginning, just because of converting all of our customers from SASE XP. You know, they went from a program where they could add, you know, as many contacts as they wanted to a student to PowerSchool where it was giving them mom and dad. And so we would, you know, we had custom pages that we created that we would load on every district that we implemented in Wisconsin. And we were just dealing with Wisconsin at that time in PowerSchool. And so we did kind of from the beginning do some customizations with it based on their previous software needs and such. But then it really took off, and then here we are today with customers all over the world. In almost every single state and several countries. So it's crazy. It's great.
Awesome. How many, like what countries? I mean, obviously there's, you know, North America, but I mean, where are we on the other side of the ocean?
We have a lot in the UAE. We have.
Thank you, Rami Bacchus.
There you go.
Rami.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Rami. We have a lot of them are like the American schools in these places. Right. So I think we have a couple in China and Japan, and I don't Korea. All of them off the top of my head.
I know we've got Colombia.
Yep.
There's some in Korea.
Yep.
Might be in Switzerland because Shmami Shmakus used to be in Switzerland too.
That's also cool. Like,
yeah, it is.
Yeah. It really is.
You know,
bunch in Canada. So it's awesome.
We don't talk about the Canadian ones though. You know, so if I may, here's my take on, and I'm curious, Alicia, if you and I have aligning views on this.
I gotta get a little dog in my room. 1 second.
Go get the dog. So for me, I feel like a huge turning point from being this, from a PowerSchool perspective anyway, this company that supports Wisconsin school districts. It all started with a school district in the state of Wisconsin, Wauwatosa. And they were using a fee processing software that just got to be too expensive.
Yeah.
Are you remembering this?
I am, but I'm also remembering my yes.
Oh, yeah.
Remembering our PSU experience. So
our PSU experience. We had a great time in the airport on that trip back from PSU, I recall.
This is a story we got to hear now.
Yeah, no, you
I can share it when Eric's done. It's fine.
There you go.
But I remember, so they were using this third-party fee processing system, and the powers that be at Wauwatosa, Wisconsin said, come hell or high water, we're getting rid of this. We heard PowerSchool has a fees module built into it. You're going to use that. We're not paying for this other software. You know, because they're looking at the bottom line. Mm-hmm. Little did they know what PowerSchool had to offer when it comes to fees. Sorry if I'm being a little
it was frank, the best.
But
I take it off.
Say again?
It was the best that they could offer.
It was. So Wauwatosa.
Well, God, and this has to be like almost. I mean, this has got to be close to 9 years ago. 8. I mean,
I want to say it is.
And it's just as good as it was then as it is now.
I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good. How does the country song go? Never mind.
You are drinking moonshine. You should know those words. Right?
I am. I think I might have had a little too much cranberry. But so we sat down with them and we decided, okay, they said, all right, we can move to PowerSchool fees, but we need the reports that we had from our previous system. So we sat down to talk with them on two parts. A, to show them how fees worked in PowerSchool, and B, to discuss the reports that they would need built. So this conversation initiated with, you're going to be using PowerSchool fees. We need to build some custom reports for those fees. Because apparently the plethora of fee reports that there are already in PowerSchool weren't sufficient for them. That was sarcasm, in case nobody picked up on it. But... And when we showed them how PowerSchool fees worked, they were angry at us.
right.
So
Like
you can't
it's your
delete a
fault.
transaction.
What's that?
What do you mean you can't delete a transaction?
Right? Well, now you can, I've been told. But I remember Alicia kind of leaning over because I didn't want to commit us to anything and kind of whispering in your ear, we could rebuild this from the ground up.
Right.
And that's kind of like all of a sudden your eyes kind of went wild and you were like, hey, Wauwatosa, you want us to build this from the ground up? And they were like, hell yes, we do. and that turned into our first plugin. And from then on, we realized that this is a benefit, not to just before it. I feel like before that, it had been a single page maybe that we're sharing across
Right.
multiple districts. But I feel like that was the first large scale application that we built. I don't know if the concept of a plugin even existed at that time, but
I don't think so. Yeah.
Zips at that point. You could install the zip packages, but uninstalling them was a pain in the arse.
right.
back
As
to
everybody knows, that has like the way back in the day customizations from Power Data Solutions, right?
I encountered one today trying to support it, actually. The old enhanced parent portal.
I feel like that was a real turning point for MBA. Suddenly we thought, wow, let's if we can build a solution that's not just based on one district's needs, but make it configurable and applicable across the board, then there's a opportunity there to build it once and use it indefinitely.
A lot of districts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's the same with Verona School District and behavior.
You're absolutely right. We had district after district coming to us saying we want to customize log entries in PowerSchool based around a PBS, which I believe stands for Positive Behavior
System. Yep.
Yeah.
And we, after like 4 requests that came in and 4 individual customizations that we built that were relatively similar.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we reinventing the wheel every time?
Yeah. Yeah, because we did something for Howard Swamico for behavior too. And you're right. I forgot about that with Wauwatosa and fees. Yeah, because they were adamant that they were going to stop using what they were using. Yeah.
So before we move on, airport story.
Yes.
Okay, so Eric, I know you were so new because we went to PA. Like, I don't think you had been working for us for a year yet.
Are you actually going to share this?
Did he have hair?
I just props. No, I haven't had any significant amount of hair in over a decade since before I started at MBA.
No, I'll never forget when Eric, his first interview with Peter, my brother, and our office, where Eric's office is right now, when everyone was actually in the office, is where my brother's office was, and it is out facing an atrium. And so I was coming back into the office, and I remember seeing Eric sitting there, and I think you were pretty bald, but then he just had these huge blue eyes, like looking out at me, I was like, oh my God, who is this person? So it was just, it wasn't, I mean, it was not good or bad, but I just remember that look, like I just feel like the look on your face was like, what am I doing? But it was just, I don't know. Who knows what Peter was saying to you at the time, but.
Well, prior to that, I had been bartending for about 8 years, so I probably was.
He was good with those eyes going, tell me about your problems. He lights a lighter.
Yeah. So anyway, so this was this had to have been, was it summer?
Yes, because we were in Orlando in July. I remember that was my realization when I complain about the weather in Wisconsin in January. I realized it's just as uncomfortable outside in July in Orlando.
Right, and you didn't bring any shorts.
No, yeah, that's right.
Dude.
Attaboy.
So anyway, so this is in the middle of this whole what Pearson called their Sassy First initiative to get all their Sassy XP customers onto PowerSchool as quickly as possible. And this was a summer where we were implementing Wauwatosa along with, I think, 40 other school districts. And Wauwatosa, I really enjoyed working with everyone in that school district, but this was the most demand. I mean, this is a district in Wisconsin at the time, they probably had 8,000 students, which for Wisconsin is a large-ish school district. So, I mean, you've got Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, and then it like really drops down. So like 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. We've been doing, rinky-dink implementations with 1 elementary, 1 middle, 1 high school. Those are easy to do in 90 days.
Right.
This district is not easy to do in 90 days. And they were coming from Sassy XP, which was good because I knew Sassy XP. But because of the amount of work, I'm at PSU going to classes and then staying up literally until like probably 3 a.m. to work on stuff for Wauwatosa. And Eric and I are leaving to fly back, and I don't know if it was in Orlando or in the Detroit airport, but we're sitting there and I was so tired, so stressed out. I'm sitting there next to Eric and I just break down and start crying. I mean, we hardly know each other. The poor guy, I'm like crying because I'm so just tired, stressed, overwhelmed. Like, how am I going to get all this done and happy? And poor Eric's probably like, who is this crazy person that I am working for?
Do you need a hug or a drink right now?
Right.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's like when someone's breaking down crying, you're like, they need a hug. And I'm like, that's my boss. I don't know if it's okay to hug her. I just look at her real awkward like.
Use a whiskey and a hug.
Yeah. I mean, Eric, you're pretty good at being awkward anyway. I could only imagine how you would act in a situation like that.
Well, but my awkward usually stems from being comfortable with somebody and not being afraid to be a little creepy. This is more of a I don't know this person so well, and she's my boss, and I'm afraid to be creepy.
Right.
I don't know what she's gonna do.
Right. Yeah.
But again, that was just another proof in the old saying, "This too shall pass."
Right.
Well, there you go. There's proof that the passion you have behind what you're supporting, because I mean, there is tears. I mean, this is the first time I've heard that story, but that's tears because you're just trying to support everybody. Yeah. You're trying to figure out how to make it all happen.
Right. My mom has always said that every job she's been in, she's always loved what she's doing. And I just think that's the coolest thing in the world. And I never thought I would end up where I am today, but I can say the same thing. I have really loved what I'm doing ever since I came to work for my mom. And so it's nice. And it's just I think our company in general just everyone is so great, and everyone has such a good rapport and connects and can have fun and, be real with each other. But I just think of some of the relationships I've built over the years, even with our customers, that's just really special, some that just go back to when I even first started working for my mom. And I remember, again, this was during Sassy XP days, and I was pregnant with my first daughter, and we had one of our user group conferences up in the Dells, and a bunch of customers had a little baby shower for me, which was so amazing that, anyone.
Who is a freshman in college right now, by the way, to give you a little context.
Thank you, Eric.
I'm sure she
timeline of that story.
So, so it's kind of, and some of them I still, we connect via Facebook and things. And so it's been such a great ride so far. And so I get why my mom says that, because,
sure.
Even she was in the school or, government entity most of her life working. And so it's nice to just be able to say that, you really love what you do. And it's just a nice thing. So
it's definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Well, you foster a great work environment. I mean, I'm new to the team myself here, but I mean, it's been fantastic.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, I've been here just a little over a year, and it's awesome to every single person that I work with within the company, cares about the customer, the school that we're dealing with, and we do whatever it takes to find a solution for that school.
Right. Well, and Sean, it's funny because you and Chris both started in January, and I remember when you were both here in Madison, which normally, Ryan, that's what we would have done. Like, we would have our new staff come to Madison for a week and hang out and meet. Carla would have been up here, and, we would have onboarded you a little differently than what's occurred. But, but yeah, I mean, Sean and Chris were here in January, and then COVID hit. And I mean, it's so weird thinking I haven't seen you in a year, and even at a PSUG or anything, and
PSUG in general.
Yeah.
I've in over a decade, I haven't gone a year. I mean, between working for a district, between working for other places, I haven't gone a year without going to PSUGs and PSUs and things like that. And I've gone over a year without any travel, personal or otherwise. And what a different environment we are right now. And I mean,
what I don't miss though.
We miss you all.
I miss the people. You know what I don't miss though? Airports.
I know.
And that's not hearkening back to the story that was told moments ago.
I was like, people don't cry every time you go to the airport.
Eric. I seriously enjoy. It's almost. I mean, let's not go off topic crazy, but I mean, I feel like I've got airports down to a science in enjoying them, and it's just making sure in a bag that you can carry that's not too cumbersome. You've got all the comforts you need, and you schedule your flights so that you're not running from one terminal to another. Yeah. I enjoy airports. It's like a nice, solitude time to just sit there and find a nice seat and listen to when they're going board.
Watch people.
I'll say I'm a people watcher, so sitting.
Bring your Sumbits episode on your phone. Listen to that in the airport next time. Yeah. My one trick for airports that I would say I'm super proud of. You know how everybody's trying to get to the front of the line to get on that airplane as quickly as possible? You want to be the last person on that airplane, because if that window seat's open, man, nobody's going to ask if it belongs to you. You just not the window seat, the emergency exit seat. You're going to get that leg room for free.
Well, see, now here's my thing. I have a gripe with people when they're short, Eric, who try to get the emergency row, because at 6'7", I actually need that space. It's not for me a matter of like luxury. It's that like on I don't know if should we name airlines here. There are certain airlines where if I'm not in the emergency row, my knees are up against the front of the seat in front of me. and it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I
am
can't say
literally
I have
a
that
foot
problem.
shorter than you. Yeah, I am a foot shorter than you, Ryan. I've never had a leg room issue.
Well, and then there's some airlines that now charge you to select that emergency row, and I'm like, come on, I ain't doing it out of like, poops and giggles. I literally just need to sit on a dang plane. So, I always get a little frustrated when I'm not able to get that seat, and then I see somebody who's like half my size.
Someone like me who's 5'1" sitting there. But
Well, now you know, Cockrum, last person on the plane. I find half the time nobody's in that seat. And my seat is somewhere else farther back the plane. But if I'm the last guy on the plane and nobody sat there, oh, look, my seat right there next to the emergency exit.
That's assuming you're not flying Southwest.
Well, since we're naming airlines, Delta is the one that I find is worst. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out once things get lifted and we can start flying again how all these things work.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Because I can't wait. I can't wait to actually sit down and share a picture with you folks like that.
I know. I can't wait to have the entire staff together. We were together it was October. It would have been October of 2019. And then, we hired 4 new staff in 2020 alone. And so, it's just crazy. So
here's what we got to do. When we are allowed to actually be face-to-face with our clients again, we've got to host our Wisconsin PSUG. And a little bit of shout out here. This podcast isn't meant to advertise MBA, but we host the Wisconsin PSUG every year when we can. We didn't last year because of the COVIDs. We need to head to the local pub, post sessions, record a session of Sumbits live.
Yes,
Wisconsin PSUG.
Oh, yes.
Heck yeah.
And enjoy with some friends.
Yeah.
We've had people over the this is another thing that's been really cool over time is when I first started with MBA, we were hosting the Wisconsin PSUG, and we had people from all over Wisconsin come to join us, and now we have people from all over the nation come to join us for our Wisconsin PSUG. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that kind of segues into back to the history of MBA. How long has MBA put on the Wisconsin PSUG?
And before you answer that, I do want to jump back into like the current state of MBA with that, but I just so it's on the radar, but definitely go back into that. I'm curious, what your thoughts are on all that, but yeah, go into your answer there.
So when I first came to work for MBA and we were working with the Sims 3 software, there were user groups, which I know there's PowerSchool user groups, but Wisconsin's PowerSchool user group doesn't operate exactly like the others. So, and I'll get to that in a second. So Sims had a really strong user group, so strong that any state that was using Sims had a user group, and it was a formal user group where districts paid to be a part of it. You had a membership fee. There was a board. And, they would meet, I don't know how often. And then, I think the user groups would meet every so often. And then there would be a local user group. But then at the time, I think it was, it started with NCS. NCS would have this huge user group conference, sort of like PSU, but a little bit different because more user group specific, where users did sessions and things like that. But these user groups at that time had a place where they could go to NCS and say, this is what's working in the software. This is what's not working in the software. These are enhancements we'd like to see, that kind of. So they had a relationship with NCS at the time. And that continued a little bit with Pearson. And then it kind of started to peter out a little bit. And when we got involved with Sassy XP, because there was this other software, Columbia System, I think it was called. And in Wisconsin, we have these groups called CSAs, Cooperative Education Service Agencies, and they worked with that Columbia software. So Pearson was kind of taking all of their Sims customers and getting them to Sassy XP and getting these Columbia customers to Sassy XP. And the CISAs had always run a conference. And so we kind of joined in helping them put on a Sassy XP user group conference. And it stayed as this national thing for a little bit, but then that kind of just dissolved. And then eventually the CISAs got out of PowerSchool, and we were doing the Wisconsin PSUG with them. And then they got out of PowerSchool. And so then it was just MBA putting on the Wisconsin PSUG. So there's been like a Wisconsin SIS user group for as long as I can remember. It just hasn't always been PowerSchool. So, So we've been doing it for a long, long time. And so when we joined in with the CISAs, I didn't know about like Joe Miller's PSUGs and all these other PSUGs that were going on when we even first got involved in them. Yeah. So, but yeah, so we've been doing it for a really, really long time. And
hey, I have a question. So speaking of CISAs, do I remember correctly? Our COO, is that her official title? She used to work at one of the CISAs, yes?
No.
Oh, I'm imagining that. I thought
she worked for a school district. She worked for Luxembourg School District. I had always thought she worked for CISA, but I don't think she did. CISA 7 up near Green Bay. I think she worked for Luxembourg School District and was she might have even presented at some of these early conferences that I was at with when we were putting them on with the CISAs. But then when she went to work for Trekka, I think is when I would see her more often at these PSUGs. But I thought she did, but I'm not 100% sure if she ever did go work for CISA 7 or not.
Well, we will have to unravel that mystery when we have that one join us.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that day. I'm going to be so mean to her.
Oh.
That will be a fun day, Carla.
The sunset there in Wisconsin.
We're getting close here. It's getting dimmer.
Well, it's definitely. I mean, we're all in the same time zone, but I'm on the far, west side of that time zone, and I think you're on the far east side of the time zone because it's still.
I'm even further east in the same.
No, it's pretty sunny. It's pretty light out here still, Ryan. Eric must have like closed his shades or something.
Well, I tend to hermit myself. I don't like natural light. I like the artificial stuff. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's nice that it's light outside and it's 4:45. You know, like it.
So in the dead of winter, yeah, this is about the time where we live that it would be starting to get dark.
Yeah.
So we must be on the upswing, right?
Well, yeah. Yep.
Well, on that note, kind of talking about end of day, I believe this is going to turn into a two-parter. So
possible.
Thanks for joining us today, and definitely come back with us and catch up on the second half of our nice conversation with Alicia. Ta-ta for now, but we will definitely continue soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, friends.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. Enjoy more episodes and learn more at mba-link.com.